So what I love on this journey with the Lord is that he has me so unbothered. I am just free to do what it is that God tells me to do and how he tells me to do it. I don't second guess whether or not I should do what it is that he's telling me to do. I'm not in fear of saying what God tells me to say. I am not wrestling with thoughts of whether or not this thing should be said. All I know is if God tell me to say it, if God tell me to do it in this season, that's what it is. If it's up, then it's stuck. If God said it, that's just what's going to happen. I think about how the Lord has protected me, covered me, and hid me. There were some things that he had me say and put out there. There are people he had me leave behind. There are institutions he had me walk away from. And in that, he told me, you're released. And he led me through a process where he's like, yeah, block and delete. You don't need to engage that individual anymore. You don't need to go there anymore. You don't need to do that anymore. God's led me and instructed me away from things to where if I was entangled in them, I would be entangled with people and my message would not be able to go forth. God had me do and say things in the church to where it was like, I need you to die to the opinions of those in the church. I need you not to at all be worried about what they say or what they think and put that above what I tell you to do. Die to the church to where they don't have no hold on you. God had me die to the world. God had me go out with a microphone and with a Bluetooth speaker and had me preaching at the park for all those that would listen. I need you to die to the world. Don't worry about what they say. Don't worry about what they think. Go out there and do what I tell you to do. God had me die to my family. Do what I say do. Walk away. Leave. Go back. Do whatever it is I tell you to do with them. And do it in such a way in which you know you're letting me. See, God trained me in such a way to where he was like, I'm going to give you all these different taskings. And I need you to put the fact that I've instructed you to do it over how people think about it, over how people feel about it. Because there's a fear that comes up, right? What they going to say, what they going to think. You go up in front of the church, you go up in front of other people, you just go out there and you just start speaking. And God was like, I need you to get over that. So he dealt with all that in me. He purged that from me. I think about how God had me not just die to myself, but die to everyone and every entity present and everything present. And now I understand why, because of the things that he's telling me to do. He's like, I need you free of this religious spirit of judgment, of condemnation. I need you free of tradition, what you think a Christian should be like, how you think a Christian should behave. I need you free of the opinions and thoughts of others. I need you to be able to sit amongst prostitutes and sit amongst drug dealers. I need you to sit amongst the sick and them not being able to point you out. I need you to be free, to be fearless, to be bold. You see, I ain't even experienced a lot of backlash or nothing because I know God's sparing me. God's protecting me. God's caring for me. God's dealing with those that will come for me. You know, don't touch God's anointed. So I know anybody that's came for me, God's dealing with. But it's just thinking how God took me along this journey to where he freed me. And what he really freed me is the opinions of others. And allowing the opinions of others to stop me, to hinder me, to slow me down. Because that's Satan. What he freed me from was myself and being caught up and concerned about things that don't matter. Things that are outside of God's voice. Things that are outside of God's will. See, I'm not relying on my own interpretation of nothing. And I dang sure ain't relying on nobody else's interpretation of something. What I am doing in this season and what I have done is go after God with everything that I have. Everything that I have. And continue moment to moment to lose my life to God and to surrender it to him and to allow him to order every single step. See, I spent time with God so I can learn his voice. He trained me on it. God spent hours training me on it. I got to go through that because that's a part of it. You know, I used to sit down and I used to try to speak to God, but I wouldn't hear his voice back. So I would get woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning and the Lord would say, right. I would just hear this voice and I didn't know it as the Lord. I just kept hearing right. So I started writing. I started journaling. And what I realized was it's what I was writing was wow. It wasn't coming from me. I didn't speak like that. I wasn't talking about the things of the universe. It was God. That's how he started speaking to me. I would show my husband. I'd be like, look, you hear this? And he was like, whoa. He didn't recognize it as my voice. He knew it was God. He knew it was God because he's like, that don't even sound like you. Then he started opening it up more and he started speaking more to me. And the shift came from me speaking to him and him responding to then him just speaking to me. And then me responding to him as he engaged me in conversation. See, he was leading. Then he taught me how to listen to his voice on the move. He would give me activities to do. And as I would do them, he would shift me. Or he would say, okay, now do this, now do that. He was teaching me how to move and listen to his voice at the same time. See, he taught me when I was in the process of things. I was making purchases. And he was like, Jennifer, I know you're stressed out because you don't know anything about these purchases I'm having you make. It was like electronics and stuff. He was like, put your hand on everything and I'll say yes or no on what I want you to purchase. You see, he taught me his voice. He trained me. He attuned my ear to his voice. So because I know what he sound like, I'm not following a stranger because I know what his voice sound like. You see, God trained me on how to hear his voice. So now that's what I hear. So now the only thing I got to stand on is his voice. Now that I know his voice and he don't build me up with such a self-worth and showing me who I was and showing me how Satan was using fear to keep me small and keep me feeling not of value. He don't build me up so strong, y'all, that I'm just like, I'm going to do what God tell me to do, period, without the opinions of others. I'm so unbothered by just doing what it is that he say. You know how you could be unbothered too and be free to follow the Lord today? Spend time with him. Learn his voice. Let him build you up. And once when you do, you know the only thing that's left to do is not to follow man, but to follow his voice.